Hey everyone, welcome. This is Pseudo. Welcome to Tyria Tribune and a very special balance stream. I am so excited about this one because we're going to be going through Berserker, which is actually my favorite class. If you didn't know, I stream regularly, weekdays, usually around this time, hopefully earlier, getting back into it, especially with all these balance changes that look like they're coming down the pipeline. But let's get to it as I fix my little windows here. You can always find me on Twitter, on TyrioTribune.com. That's going to be moving to the Vanguards of Ascension site, sort of consolidating stuff. All the addresses will still work, and Mondays will be our giveaway nights going forward. Today's Wednesday, didn't do it this week, so we'll do it today if anyone wants to join and show up and talk to me about this. But let's get into what they did to Berserker, what I'm a fan of, and what I'm not a fan of. Welcome message in the chat. If you're new here, this is a build crafting channel, also announcements for gem store items and little changes they do. I'm going to be doing patch notes as well because people seem to like those. Ignore my little chat. That's team chat for SOS. Kind of hectic, but they're having some fun. So let's jump right into it. Make sure nothing's muted this time. Okay, looks good. All right, so let's pull up the patch notes here. Zoom in a little bit so they're legible. Let's move this over to the side. That's the wrong thing. All right, good, good. Thank you, OBS, so much. Got my little character here. Most important thing. There we go. All right. Let's jump into what they did on October 4th. Hopefully more changes coming. This November, we're going to have a patch preview in like a week. And let's jump into this. I want to make sure Guild Wars is like all set up. Okay, we're good. All right. So scrolling down through here, I'll skip over most of this stuff. Basically, they're trying to add stability and stun breaks to world versus world. A little bit weird that Gale Song no longer gives stability to that effect, but I think they're trying to get rid of the auto trigger traits. So you'll see a lot of those go away, like the 302nd trait cooldowns going away, such as Defy Pain. Defy Pain is nuts now, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So we scroll down through here, some engineer buffs, lots for PvP, a little bit of a couple changes. They're holding off on the gyro field for Scrapper right now. Probably good. They're still ground targeted. Um, or they're not ground targeted, rather. They still follow the Scrapper, and then the one field they did make ground targeted and stationary is Defense Field. So it's kind of a armistice that they reach with the Scrapper community. Maybe they'll get changed, maybe they won't, we'll see. They mentioned in their most recent stream update as well that they plan to be taking some stuff away from Firebrand or maybe adding some stability to other stuff. And they're going to be splitting traits more for World versus World PvE, PvP, etc. I really like that. A lot of what's holding Warrior back, in my opinion, is sort of the locking to those traditional um, game styles, game modes, ways of structuring the game, balancing it, whatever you want to call it. So, looking forward to seeing what happens with that in the future. But let's jump right into Warrior here. So, what did they do? Just General Warrior, and then we'll go into Berserker. Berserker, spoiler alert, received a huge overhaul. Very much a fan of most of the stuff they did. A couple things I think still need work. This is, however, my favorite change overall. And you'll see why in a second. Shake It Off, reduce the ammunition count from 2 to 1 in PvP in World vs. World. It actually has effectively 0 ammunition now. Sorry, zooming in like crazy. And so it's no longer an ammunition skill at all. Also, the Bladesworn Elite, in case you missed it, does not reload non-Bladesworn skills. So that's a huge nerf. Basically, their stun breaks went from 3 to 1 very fast, and they also lost the stability on Dragon Scale defense, which is why Bladesworn is quite difficult to play right now. But what this nerf affords them the ability to do is essentially give some space and hopefully some buffs to some of the other stuff in Bladesworn's kit and in Warrior's kit in general. This is something I've been asking for since Shake It Off, I think, had ammunition added to it. And something else they added in their most recent design philosophy stream, Cal and Roy, big shout out to them, is that they hope to make every skill and trait, not obviously with the November update, that would be a little bit ridiculous to expect, but they hope to make every skill and trait. So let's go to the builder. Wow, it's like glitching out. Let's reload the builder. Every skill and trait on every class have a place somewhere in the game. I can't click this. Curious. Maybe it doesn't do well with zooming. It really doesn't. Let's that does not want to work. That's new. Reload one more time. But basically, things like Fear Me, other things like maybe some banners that don't get used, stuff like that. Well, this just doesn't want to go. All right. Well, just do it off patch notes. Um, or I could actually do it off my main Guild Wars 2 thing here. Hold, please. It's a work in progress, this stream. But essentially, should actually be above everything else. Both of those get relabeled. Whatever. So these, some of these skills and traits, hopefully. Did it? Is it moving? I'm sorry. I had all this set before the stream and then it moved everything on me. But a lot of these skills and traits that don't really have a place, not only on Warrior, but on other classes as well. Um, Things like Fear Me is a really go-to one. Pretty much all the Warrior Signets right now are pretty bad, except for Signet Fury kind of has its place. Things like Throw Bolas, Kick. Hopefully those, not so much the racial skills and stuff, but hopefully some of this stuff that really doesn't see much use, like Banner of Tactics, Banner of Discipline, um, stuff like that, will hopefully have a place somewhere in every game mode in the days, going forward. Maybe Signet of Rage will get some buffs. They've sort of hinted at that a little bit as well. No promises, but uh, we can dream, we can hope, right? I'm pretty excited, and I hope other people are excited going forward as well. Let's just double check my stream. It's showing up. I think I have all the streaming problems, so going forward we should have some better streams. So subscribe if you'd like to get more regular streams from me. Let me know if you're having trouble with a build, what you're interested in, stuff like that. Oop, Ospreys needs help. Anyway, a little bit of a look behind the curtain as far as SOS chat goes. But let's get back to this right now. So if we look back at the patch notes, let's move the patch notes. There we are. Lot of traits receiving buffs. We have a lot of reworks to stuff. One of the most notable ones was they added some damage, and honestly, the most notable one for the entire game going forward is they said the first rule of rules, as far as balance goes, is there are no rules, right? Something they did is they actually added power back to Skullcrack as well as Earthshaker. And if you don't know, these are the basic Hammer F1 and the Mace F1 on Berserker right now. So much so that I actually busted my butt to make a. If I equip this real quick, it'll show. See, Skullcrack. Well, that's curious. Should have a power coefficient. It appears to not. Well, ideally, they added power back to Skullcrack. But going forward, they're going to be more open to adding actual power coefficients to these skills. And hopefully, other skills like Prime Light Beam they mentioned got a power coefficient added back to it going forward. So they're actually breaking a lot of the rules they set, like with that nerf patch 3 years ago, which is a really good sign. Sort of giving some of those skills the power that they need back, and what have you in their design philosophies going forward. It's really, really, really exciting. At least for me, because I really like when they sort of shake it up and add stuff. Maybe they'll, add a higher movement speed limit next to certain skills or something like that. Although some classes like thieves would be very hard to catch if they did that. So, um, so if you look at go through the warrior changes, excuse me, lots of stuff like that. Reduce some cooldowns. Um, some of the stuff that previously was quite punishing on the cooldown side. Like Pommel Bash, Counterblow, small incremental changes, maybe they'll make Mace viable. Probably not, but they're working toward it. They actually really dumpstered Whirling Axe, the power coefficient, and they also kind of increased a couple ancillary things like Barrier and Quickness. But let's get into Berserker and what they changed. So if you go back to Guild Wars real quick, um, the most notable thing, and you can kind of see this before, is they gave us back our F1s. Yay! And they also, where is it? They took away the toughness penalty for actually going into Berserker, which is amazing. Berserker kind of was in that Bladesworn boat where it had like 2.5 trade offs to it, where it lost its F1s. It really didn't like it had to build up 30 adrenaline, which is kind of like the half trade off they had in order to even go into Berserk. And then they also lost 300 toughness when they were actually in Berserk mode, which is really, really punishing for an elite specialization, especially one that's supposed to be all about power and damage and such. So it's a really good step to sort of give those things back to Berserker. You can see gave the actual F1 burst skill back. They also added a couple ancillary things, like adding, and I'm just trying to get through everything, and then I'll talk about what I think about everything in a second. But they added adrenaline back to a lot of the berserk skills, which is amazing. I have some spellbreaker buffs down here as well that I didn't notice. But they also, and most notably, made things like cleansing ire actually count for one base stack and then one additional stack per sort of, excuse me again, bar of adrenaline that you spend. So that's like 10 adrenaline. You spend 10, you hit something, you cleanse two conditions. If you hit something with like a base, burst skill with 3 bars, that actually removes 4 conditions. And they did sort of similar scaling to bump up a little bit adrenal health. It really didn't change much, as well as Berserker's power, which is the strength damage, accumulating as you use burst skills trait line. Um, they added that to use basically 4 charges instead of 3. They didn't actually increase the damage, but it was already a very powerful trait, so I totally understand why. So let's get into the Berserker changes and talk about what they did, why they did it, and where we go from here. So most notably, you'll notice they actually gave Blazebreaker, the 4 on Torch, Torch 4, 2 charges. It's an ammunition skill now, and they also made it a blast finisher. This is notable for 2 reasons. Berserker doesn't really have, unlike Spellbreaker and Bladesworn with the, Roaring Dragon or whatever it's called, Unyielding Dragon trait, it doesn't really have an ability to, or the ability to build might, which is kind of weird considering it's like all about the power one. But now what you can do is you can use any fire field and you can use Blazebreaker to give yourself 3 might. And I have Celestial Gear on, so it's actually 30 seconds here. Blast finishers are by default 25, but it actually gives you the ability to stack up might very sort of over time reliably. I'm wondering if they'll make blast finishers give 5 might. It's because we've sort of evolved past the 3 might threshold in most game modes, maybe for a shorter duration, but we'll see. But essentially, it gives you the ability to stack by default like 9 might with the cooldown and stuff. And the torch trait gives you the ability to generate even more might now. It's really, really good step. I wouldn't say Torch is really a viable offhand weapon because a lot of its power is really loaded in Flames of War and the cooldowns are a little bit too long, but it's a step, right? Um, before the, what was it called? The Blast Finisher was inherently on the Mace F1. I believe it's called Skull Grinder in Berserk mode, and that was a blast finisher, and you sort of stack up might on yourself that way by blasting your finisher or your fields. Um, but now it's on Torch 4, so at least you're getting some might back, which is refreshing after so long. All right, so that's covered. Like I said, these generate adrenaline now, all the Berserker skills, and more if you hit with them usually, which is extremely good. It's really exciting. You actually have to hit something with Headbutt. It doesn't just generate 30 adrenaline, but wouldn't that be nice? Um, and we've got a bunch of trait changes as well. So let's jump back to our change rundown real quick. Um, Fatal Frenzy, that's the one I couldn't think of. No longer series toughness. So this is curious. Dead or Alive, this trait has been reworked and it now grants 2 seconds of Blood Reckoning while entering Berserk mode. It actually grants 2.5 seconds, and they showed this on their stream as well. So, and was already like the very good trait because it would heal you a little bit. This is extremely good because Berserk mode by default has a 15-second cooldown. You got to build the adrenaline back up. I think it has a 15-second duration. It's less with Discipline, which is basically what you run always on Berserker. And it just gives you a very high uptime of healing in addition to the actual Blood Reckoning heal skill. It's really good supplementally, especially with Savage Instinct, which basically gives you invulnerability for 2 seconds. And a stun break is one of the few classes that still has a stun break. So Berserker's level of effectiveness is coming up a lot just by these few changes. It's not, I would say, really there yet, but we're getting there. So again, to mouse over at things of cleansing ire, you cleanse, as long as you hit something, two conditions minimum, which is very good for Berserker that's spamming out those skills and stuff. One change I want to note that they mentioned that is a little bit incorrect, and I don't really begrudge them, I guess is the word. any for making this, they added aggressive onslaught as a warrior trait, where it actually will increase your movement speed over the cap, or it will stack with existing, not over the cap, but it'll stack with existing buffs rather, movement speed buffs. Movement speed in this game does not inherently stack. So if you have something like swiftness, it will stack with this. But if you have something like say on a necromancer with a signet of the locust, where you have swiftness and signet of the locust is giving you the 25% movement speed buff, those don't stack. It only takes the higher value unless it otherwise says it. Similar to how speed runes increase the efficacy of swiftness by 66%. A lot of people think that gives you an additional 66% movement speed. It doesn't. What it does, and it still makes swiftness or speed runes one of the best runes in the game, but it will make swiftness effectively buff your character by 66% movement instead of the 33 that swiftness does by default. So you'll be moving 66% faster, which chunks you up to in combat about like 348 movement speed. I don't know the exact number. The downside to this is super speed automatically doubles your movement speed. And when you enter Berserk mode, you get super speed for 3 seconds. Maximum duration 10. They added that with the boon, stacking thing. Same thing with attack speed. They don't stack additively or multiplicatively. It will only take the higher value. So something I've always thought was kind of superfluous was the attack speed increase that you get for being in Berserk mode, because it doesn't stack with the quickness that was added to this. Quickness increases your attack speed by 50%. That will not actually stack with the base 15% attack speed. Similar to how if you take dual wielding and actually have two relevant weapons, that doesn't stack with quickness. So when they added this trait and said on stream, aggressive onslaught, where if you have quickness and movement speed, it also increases your movement speed and should stack with super speed. I think it was Roy or Cal said, if you take this and you go into Berserk mode, you're going to be zooming. Well, you're not going to be zooming any more than you would by default anyway, because the cap movement speed in and out of combat, if you're not on a mount or have some kind of external modifier that's really special in this game, is 400. And super speed automatically doubles that to 410 in combat, more if you're out of combat. So 410 plus 25%, which would put you at like 500, isn't going to go over the cap, because the cap, no matter what, is always at 400. But if you have something like speed runes and quickness, that would work. Like swiftness, give yourself some extra theoretically. I haven't tested everything, but it should in theory at least work. So it's nice to see, and it's a little bit of an option for warriors, especially competing with things like what's it called? Like the dead are no, might makes right. That's what it is in Berserker's power. They're both very powerful traits and such. Sorry, I've just been talking with the Firefox window up. I was mousing over my stream and it didn't switch, so oh well. So we got some other Berserker changes. Berserk mode now activates instantly, even if you don't have it stun broken, like the stun break trait. I think it's no, it's not Smash Brawler. I think it's I don't know, the stun break trait. If you don't have that, it now activates instantly, which is amazing. Big quality of life trait there. The hammer F1 in Berserk mode, I'm not sure what it's called. But the hammer F1 in Berserk mode, the primal burst, is now a full AoE. They showcased that on stream. Very nice to see. Big Earthshaker, that's it. No, it's not Earthshaker, that's the base F1. Whatever. It's a nice full AoE. It's not just around you or in front of you. Really nice, especially with some of the synergy that they've sort of afforded Berserker, because those are both blast finishers as well. The F1 in Berserk mode and out of Berserk mode, they're also really good movement skills, I've found. So Hammer actually, ironically, has some of the best movement on Berserker now, because you can sort of F1 and then you can go into Berserk mode, and a little bit later they actually share cooldowns in and out of Berserk mode, and I wish they didn't, but oh well. Rupturing Smash, that's what it's called. So, and Flaming Flurry got a projectile speed increase, although I don't know if I've noticed that. But yeah, and Flames of War slightly increases conditions removed. So yeah, Berserker got some buffs. Really, really nice. Bloody Roar, thing to note, and I've seen lots of people complaining and posting on the forums, and hopefully they know about this. I think they've acknowledged this several times. Bloody Roar doesn't actually, the damage increase doesn't work multiplicatively, even though it should. They originally put this trait back in the game, and I think it was like 25% damage base. And unfortunately, it never got to do its 25% damage multiplicatively. It was always additive. And just how damage works out in this game, that's like a huge bonus, because it's only additive. It basically takes 10% of the base. It doesn't take 10% and add it on to all of the other damage modifiers, and that's like a huge deal. So that's why Berserker's power damage in PvE kind of like doesn't even come close to competing with Bladesworn. If they fix this trait, Bloody Roar, hopefully they do. That'd be amazing. They also need to fix Daring Dragon now because they changed something with how flow generation, or they tried to fix the bug where it has a lower cooldown if you nudge it, and it goes on 4 seconds instead of 8, which was very replicable on all builds, all Grandmasters for Bladesworn, and now it doesn't do that. But what it does is it will. I don't exactly know how it is or how this works because I don't have under the hood, under the hood coding privileges. But what I can tell you is it basically halves your flow generation with Daring Dragon, and actually with all of the Grandmaster traits. It's just most notable with Daring Dragon because you will, if you build up 100 flow, you won't be able to get 10 slashes out, or like 9 to 10 or 10 to 11 with the flow generation you had before. You won't even be able to get like 7 now. So hopefully they fix that, and hopefully they fix Bloody Roar because they're Grandmaster traits, and Grandmaster traits for specialization should work. That's one of the. This kind of comes back to my comment that I made when they were doing their balance philosophy stream, is I'm really, really in favor of them changing stuff at a faster pace, especially with like the November balance patch coming up, and I'm hugely in favor of them trying everything. Like, don't get me wrong. I would 100% have them, even if it's on my classes, right? The classes that I really like to build and play, and I'm sure there's other stuff on Mirage and Elementalist that's bugged as well, or whatever. But I would rather have them try stuff and have it be bugged than have them try nothing, right? Because what I would, I would hate for them to say, hey, they tried stuff, it's bugged, let's move on, let's never try anything again because that didn't work out. That's sort of what they were doing for like the past 2 years with where they were finishing End of Dragons, and I really didn't like that, especially as a build crafter. I thought that was really boring and really stale. So I would rather have them try stuff, have them bug stuff, hopefully have them come back and fix stuff in the future than not try it at all. As far as Berserker's power level goes, it's still not quite there. But I think actually, so let me back up on that and like rephrase it a little bit. Berserker's power level, as far as the traits and the skills and the utilities and everything else, is fine. It's very good. It's playable in PvP and World versus World now, but probably not at plat level because it doesn't have a lot of the defensive things, at least on paper, and they also nerfed shield in this patch. It's definitely playable. What isn't playable is Warrior. And this comes back to, hopefully they're going to fix a lot of the core traits. Because in my opinion, even if you look at other professions, Warrior by far has the most like skills and traits that are just pretty useless in like some game mode, whether it's World versus World, PvP, etc., etc., etc. Just messing around my character here, sorry. And I don't really like that because it makes it really awkward to balance. Like, so much of Warrior's power has been focused on Shake It Off and Fast Hands for so long, and now they finally nerfed Shake It Off. Maybe they'll make some of Fast Hands baseline like I suggested, who knows. I don't expect miracles, but what I do expect and hope for is more communication, and that's what we're getting. And hopefully they do an overhaul of Warrior, like Core Warrior as a whole, and that helps to bring up Spellbreaker, it helps to bring up Bladesworn, it helps to bring up Warrior's playability as well. They seem to be mentioning Warrior a lot in their streams, specifically, so I hope their focus is on that now. I don't know whether, the passionate Warrior community, shout out to you guys, we love this class, we want it to be good. I don't know if it's because of the video I made on it, I don't know if it's something, Valen did. Big ups to everyone who contributes to feedback for this amazing class, because I want it to be great. I want it to be powerful. I don't want it to be overpowered, but I'd like it to be fun to play. And that's something that really, oh, there's Heaven's Archer. Something that really struck home with me is they really want their stuff to be fun. Maybe not, you can make a very balanced game and no one will play it because that's not fun. But they want their priority to be fun, and I hope this class can be fun, will be fun. Shout out to Cal and the balance team and Roy and everybody else doing the heavy lifting on this. I know words are easy and works hard. If you need any feedback from us as a community, please let me know. Please let us know. Love the communication that's going on. A tier really, really sets it apart from like pre-End of Dragons. I'm so excited to see where this class goes going forward, and I really like the changes they made. I just hope they fix some of the bugs that they've had. But yeah, that's all for me. Nice quick stream tonight. Going to be streaming some of my actual Berserker builds. I've got an OP Tempest build coming up for hopefully before they rework some of that stuff on the 29th, if they're going to. That'll be in Pseudo's, broken builds showcase. Those usually do pretty well. And yeah, hit me up on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. I stream hopefully more regularly going forward. But I love balance. If you do too, join our community, give me a shout out. And yeah, I'll see you in Tyria.